After they leave, Troy reveals that she wasn't lying. She wasn't necessarily saying the truth, but she believed everything she said.
Then you think that I...
No, of course not.
I know you're an ass guy.
It is the truth, as each of you remembers it.
But this really doesn't make sense, because this isn't just a few different details, or someone was mean in one version and nice in another. These are like completely contradictory details. You can't get this wrong and believe it unless there's something wrong with your brain. Either she's lying, her brain doesn't function correctly, or Troy's an idiot.
Yeah, let's go with option C.
Meanwhile, radiation now attacks sickbay. Data has noticed a timing pattern to these events related to when the station exploded. So now they think it's not only connected to the station's explosion, but they can predict when the next radiation burst will attack the Enterprise. Back in the hearing, Dr. Abgar's assistant arrives and basically gives not her own testimony, but her testimony of what Dr. Abgar told her before he died. There's a word for this. What is it, Kim?
Hearsay.
She wasn't a witness to this incident, but Dr. Abgar is dead. Her statement is admissible according to Tanagan law, and I insist you consider it.
Well, hey, you take lawyer speculation as evidence. Why not hearsay? And now, in Dr. Abgar's version, of course, he kicks Riker's butt in the fight. And then Wesley got a date with a willing woman.
That's like a Chihuahua winning a fight with a Doberman. That's just adorable.
You're a dead man, Abgar. A dead man.
So in Dr. Abgar's version, not only could he beat Riker in a fist fight, but he could handle any filthy lies that Riker would put his way in response to Abgar not letting Riker have his wife. Of course.
It'll be all right. Go on.
Freeze program.
And yet, even in Apgar's own fanfic, he's still such a terrible deadpan actor. Listen to him, catching his wife cuckolding him.
I'm not the fool you take me for.
I have established motive, method, and opportunity in any court in the Federation that is sufficient to warrant the extradition of the accused.
No, this would not pass in any court. This would not pass in any court that was worth its salt as a court. The motive was down to Riker's word versus Abgar's word. That's not exactly strong evidence in and of itself. The means. Cragg himself called it speculation, and no court would take speculation as evidence in and of itself, again, that was worth its salt. Opportunity. Yes, he had as much opportunity as anyone else to have shot the reactor and blown up the station. Although, even that's questionable since he literally left split second before it blew up. So, that was a stupid opportunity, but yes, technically, he could have done that. You have one of the three prerequisites for a murder investigation covered. The other two are standing on flimsy ground.
Your case is so weak that you only have two major witnesses and they disagree on major details. Look at this.
Picard knows that Will Riker is innocent because Dr. Abgar isn't a clone, but he still thinks he's going to have to allow the extradition anyway because of the evidence. As I mentioned earlier, extraditing Riker is basically pronouncing him guilty of a capital crime. This will mean Riker's death. This is his trial because he'll be railroaded once he gets to the planet under their asinine system. But luckily, Data comes with a pretty darn literal Deus Ex Machina here. He's found the source of the radiation that's been eating little chunks away of the Enterprise, and it was Dr. Abgar's planetary equipment. Not only that, but they know why it's been attacking the Enterprise, and they know what caused the explosion.
And we also know who killed Dr. Abgar.
Shut up, Wesley.
Chief Inspector, we've watched these events replayed over and over again. But isn't it remarkable that with all the witnesses, all the different points of view of the events aboard the space station, we haven't seen what really happened?
When did Picard go from arbiter to advocate? Why isn't Geordi or Troy delivering this exposition?
Yeah, why isn't Geordi providing this exposition? So Picard takes elements out of all their testimonies, out of context, and uses it to recreate some sort of motivation that Dr. Abgar was actually doing shady double dealings with enemies of the Federation because the Federation's too cheap to really pay him. And get this, this is the really stupid part. Up till now, I could live with the mistakes they make. This is the idiotic part that nearly pushes it into POS territory. The reason that they're being hit with radiation from the surface, it's not because the machinery on the surface is sending this out, it's that Dr. Apgar's revolutionary Krieger wave converter technology has been perfectly recreated on the holodeck. Not that we have a facade of blinking lights that looks like the station, we took the time to literally build the station in this room on the holodeck to the point where their radiation waves are being converted just like the original machinery. Why does anyone build actual machinery in this age when you can make it perfectly on the holodeck?
That's even worse. They didn't know this thing could reflect Krieger waves the way it does, and yet they built one that did it. This is like if you build a model of a submarine, and then later you find out that it was actually a nuclear submarine, and your model is actually giving off radiation.
This detail could have been taken care of easily and perfectly if they had made one change. Instead of the station being completely destroyed by the explosion, say that it was gutted out, obviously the professor killed, but that the basic technology was still there, and so instead of spending 18 hours on the holodeck rebuilding things, they spent 18 hours installing holoprojectors into the station, surprisingly finding out there's already holographic projectors on there for some reason, and then going onto the station for their hearing. Only to find out that the real machinery is hidden by holograms, which explains why he had the projectors, and so that's what's happening. Nope, instead we're just going to have the magic box that makes real machines when we don't even mean to. This goes into a problem I've had with the holodeck for a long time. Safety's failing should not be that much of an issue, except for they run things stupidly. If you're going to do some sort of fantasy where people are shooting guns at you, which makes more sense? To design your holographic guns to shoot holographic bullets and then make a program that's going to undo the holographic bullets so they won't hurt you, or just make holographic guns that shoot the equivalent of blanks, flashing lights, effects around you, etc., but don't actually shoot bullets. When you play GoldenEye, the computer isn't actually designing little tiny coded bullets that fly through the air, it just has probability based on where you are in relation to where the gun is on the screen. Nothing more. That's all it needs, because it's a simulation. It's not trying to recreate reality. Usually you can ignore the holodeck when it doesn't make sense like this, but here the story is predicated on the idea that the holodeck is recreating something so perfectly that it's working like the real event.
Computer, run Riker Program 2.
To your success, Doctor.
And the rewards that come with it.
Freeze.
I never said that.
Nevertheless, it seems clear that your husband was motivated to earn the rewards that pleased you.
No, Picard, no. If she didn't say that, then you can't use that as evidence for your argument. You're making crap up. This is as flimsy and presumptive as everything Cragg was doing.
He beat him by stooping to his level.
Well, he wouldn't have earned great profits from his dealings with Starfleet. We were only interested in a new power source.
I love how they just admit straight up, oh yeah, dealing with us isn't very lucrative. We pay crap! Why does anyone want to work with us?
I submit he decided to murder Commander Riker.
A speculation, if you will.
Run Tainer, Program 4. Freeze. Tainer, what exactly is Apgar doing here?
Despite not being able to see what he's actually doing with his hands, you still recreated this perfectly. So we find out that Dr. Apgar tried to murder Riker and make it look like an accident, but instead it bounced off the transporter beam and destroyed the station.
An interesting hypothesis, but impossible to prove.
We've arranged a demonstration to illustrate. Mr. LaForge, I think it's about time, isn't it?
And because the radiation is coming in just a few seconds, they recreate the event, and of course it goes exactly like they predicted.
Because they couldn't have just programmed it to do that no matter what it really would have. Ow, brain.
By the way, since when do energy weapons actually bounce off a teleporting person? And the explosion wrecks the program apparently because they're back on the holodeck. So I see two possibilities here. Either they programmed this dramatic thing which would go back to the yellow and black grid pattern of the holodeck, but that was their plan and the holodeck's still running, or they dragged in a big metal table into the holodeck.
Want to get down on this?
You decide which is stupider. So Cragg withdraws the case, and they go on their way happily, having learned nothing, just smiling even though they've shattered at least one life. Probably two. And that's the episode. Like I say, the ending falls apart, but most of the episodes are actually pretty decent if you overlook a few logical flaws, and Star Trek's got plenty of those anyway. It really is a sickening display of lack of justice, but you could argue ultimately that Picard's using their bad justice system against them, and he's not doing anything that they wouldn't do, so you could argue that. Episodes like The Measure of a Man show that Picard is perfectly willing and able to use proper rhetorical techniques, so he's not bound to using hearsay and speculation.
It could significantly redefine the boundaries of personal liberty and freedom, expanding them for some, savagely curtailing them for others.
Yeah, I'm going to give Picard the benefit of the doubt on this and say that he's just hitting them in their weak point that they created themselves. With A Private Little War, it was the stupid things is what I remembered. With A Matter of Perspective, it was the clever things I remembered. And so because it's what I remembered, that's really ultimately the difference. What stands out to you? What's the part that defines the episode in your memory when you haven't watched it in a long time? So of course, decide for yourself as usual, but as for me, because of those issues, this episode barely squeaks by and becomes SOS TNG.
YouTube gave this a ban, so Matt and I hatched a plan. The end credits we would edit just because we can. Instead, here's a new song,
Toys for Boys,
so the credits go on.
by Shaska.
It's public domain, you can't complain, you can't be happy with that. What's the deal with saying we steal? It's fair use, we give them their dues. If it's so bad, you block our reviews. Why link up with iTunes?
Making money there.
So if you're hearing this song, YouTube claimed we done wrong. The song title is still vital, right near the end. You'll see what could have been.
It was fun.
If we just talk like friends.
For no one.
Instead of discussion, you went for expulsion. That's why this tune has gone on. What more can I say? YouTube gets their way. The old music, we won't use it. Copyright wins. They prevent their loss. We repost past toss. No copywriting means no more fighting. I hope you enjoyed what was banned. What's the deal with saying we steal? It's fair use, we give them their dues. If it's so bad, you block our reviews. One link up with iTunes.
Well, that's a waste of doubt.
YouTube gave this a ban, so Matt and I hatched a plan. The end credits we would edit just because we can. Instead, here's a new song,
Toys for Boys,
so the credits go on.
by Shaska.
Had been Krang.
Roger!